Woo, this is sad. Here you have someone pretending to be a tough guy turn out to be just a second banana for Joy Behar, the poster child for Trump derangement. Sadly, Bob is now just another gibbering, enfeebled ninny, surrounded by inept relatives as he frets about how Trump's in power and he's not. See, Trump's rise coincides with De Niro's decline. And the person who knows it most is De Niro. He's a fine example of how not to turn loss into bitterness. There are plenty of people who don't like Trump, but don't let it warp their minds or their ability to speak aloud among grown-ups or The View. But the Schiffs and De Niros of the world are emotionally damaged by politics to a point where they can't even assess their own.
Picture this. A Hollywood icon with more than 70 years of legendary films behind him walks into the spotlight, believing he's still the most intimidating person in the room. Sitting across from him is a guy who looks like he'd rather be hosting a sarcastic podcast from his garage than trying to win a shouting match. On paper, it seems like an easy victory for the movie legend, but what unfolded was something completely different. It turned into one of the most unexpected and strangely satisfying television clashes in recent memory. As Robert De Niro's frustration kept rising, Greg Gutfeld never matched his energy. He didn't lose his cool, raise his voice, or even look rattled. Instead, he answered it all with a quiet smirk, and somehow that expression landed harder than any dramatic speech ever could. That calm confidence shifted the entire mood of the exchange, making every reaction feel even more powerful. So get ready, because what followed wasn't really a debate at all. It was a slow, methodical takedown that unfolded one moment at a time, led by nothing more than a grin that never disappeared.
Elderly, confused man went missing in New York. Luckily, a band of self-satisfied elitists found him babbling on the street, threw some pants on him, gave him a stage.
Oh my God.
I'm going to say one thing. Trump.
Here's the part that really stood out. There was a time when Robert De Niro could command an entire room without saying much at all. One look from him carried so much weight that it felt like the tension alone could stop a conversation. But over the years, as award show speeches and political comments started drawing more attention to the performances, many people felt that quiet mystery began to fade. Instead of the reserved screen legend audiences had admired for decades, critics increasingly saw a frustrated public figure speaking out on politics with growing intensity. The internet picked up on that shift almost immediately, and the reaction spread everywhere. That's the difficult reality of fame. Once a legendary aura is replaced by constant public commentary, it's incredibly hard to get that sense of mystery back. The more familiar people become with the person behind the image, the harder it is for the legend to feel quite the same again.
De Niro graced the knitting circle in hell known as The View, where he tried to link random thoughts into a sentence. Joy was there to wind him up, since he's played some of the most unredeemable characters.
You have played some of the most really unredeemable characters. Travis Bickle. Travis Bickle was a psychopathic taxi driver. Jake LaMotta, who used to beat his wife, and he was in The Raging Bull. Is Trump worse than they are?
Then, from a world of late-night television, came someone almost nobody expected to play that role, Greg Gutfeld. He hardly looked like the kind of person who would intimidate anyone. With a style that felt more like someone who carefully organized a spice rack and enjoyed stirring up debates in online comment sections just for fun. On the surface, he seemed like the underdog, but that ended up being exactly what made the moment so surprising. He didn't rely on volume or confrontation. Instead, he leaned on sharp timing and dry sarcasm, turning humor into his strongest weapon, rather than charging into the argument. He stayed relaxed, settled into the conversation, and slowly picked apart the points being made one calm remark at a time. There was no shouting, no dramatic outbursts, and no attempt to overpower anyone. It unfolded more like a carefully crafted roast in a heated debate, with each quiet joke landing at just the right moment, gradually chipping away at the larger-than-life image until the exchange felt less like an argument and more like watching a skilled performer pull off a perfectly timed illusion.
An actor is tough. For how does one handle real life without a script? Not equipped to think analytically, you're left powerless when observing your own predictions about life turn out wrong. It's not supposed to be this way, De Niro thinks. Only the cool guys get to win. Sorry, Bob. That's only in the movies. but at least you'll always have...
But the story didn't stop there. As the exchange continued, another point started getting more attention. Critics argued that De Niro's tough guy image and outspoken political commentary were coming from a life that looked very different from the everyday experiences of most Americans. While he often spoke on behalf of ordinary people, some questioned how closely his lifestyle reflected the struggles he was describing. That's where Gutfeld found an opening. Instead of responding with anger, he delivered a dry, carefully timed joke that challenged that contrast. The point was simple. It's difficult to lecture working-class Americans about hardship when you spent years living a life of extraordinary wealth and privilege. The line landed because it tapped into a criticism that had already been circulating online, and Gutfeld didn't need to raise his voice to make it work. He let the humor do the heavy lifting, turning a serious argument into a memorable punchline that quickly became one of the most talked-about moments of the exchange.
Kills me. Talk about persuasive. Really, I was on the fence about Trump, but then I decided to really listen to one of the great generational leaders of American pop culture, and the clenched fists at the end, that really drove it home. It looked like he was pressing a 2-pound weight in a Jenny Craig commercial.
Oh my God.
Look at it again. It's so cute. It's like he found out the restaurant serves Jell-O, or that he won a $10 scratch-off, or he scored a cameo in Jersey Shore, or he had his first #2 in a week.
And then came a moment that really caught people's attention. Gutfeld delivered a line that many viewers felt summed up the entire exchange, holding up what was essentially a rhetorical mirror. The image looking back wasn't the larger-than-life Hollywood legend people had known for decades, or the commanding presence associated with his most iconic roles. Instead, the joke portrayed him as a wealthy, frustrated public figure trying to speak with the certainty of a political authority, while much of the conversation had already moved on. What made the moment stand out was that De Niro never seemed to anticipate where the setup was leading. He leaned into his own monologue with complete confidence, and according to the commentary, that only made the punchline land harder. That's the power of sarcasm when it's delivered with perfect timing. It doesn't depend on shouting or personal attacks. It simply lets the other person's own words and reactions carry the weight, allowing the audience to draw the conclusion on their own.
Poor Bob. You know, he's like a star whose girlfriend dumps him for a bigger star who's in the White House while you're in Dirty Grandpa. Oh, man. So now the resistance is reduced to applauding tantrums. Who knew De Niro's lasting role would be irrelevant gas bag pleasing irrelevant peers? And he's doing this as Trump organizes a summit. Not a war, a summit. And you got to wonder, if it were President Hillary, Bob's choice, would you actually have a summit, or would you have a war? But forget deeds. What matters is adulation received from an emotional display before a packed sea of millionaire lemmings. So who cares that Trump meets with North Korea? It's no meet the parents.
Here's what made the whole exchange stand out. Gutfeld never raised his voice, not even once. There was no shouting, no pounding on the table, and no dramatic gestures meant to steal the moment. Instead, he stayed calm from beginning to end, and that quiet confidence became part of what made his commentary so effective. The idea behind it was simple. When someone responds to relaxed sarcasm instead of anger, it suggests they don't see the situation as something that requires a fight. They see it as something to comment on. That's how the narrative portrayed De Niro that night. Rather than being treated as an intimidating opponent, he became the focus of the jokes, with his own words and reactions providing much of the material. The humor wasn't built around loud confrontation. It came from pointing out contradictions with careful timing and letting the audience connect the dots for themselves. As clips from the exchange spread across social media, viewers replayed the moments, debated the jokes, and shared their reactions, turning the segment into one of the most talked about conversations online.
Clearly has thought about this, more so than his career. His choice of roles is now down to cinnamon and lobster. He was then asked about the Trump kids. At least he doesn't want my kids to take this the wrong way.
I don't want my kids to take this the wrong way, but if my kids did what these kids did, I wouldn't want to be related to them. I would disown them.
But the strangest part came after all of that. The real irony was hard to miss. Here was someone who had spent an extraordinary career becoming other people on screen, now stepping into the public spotlight and speaking with the certainty of someone offering lessons on how everyone else should live. The commentary suggested there was a contrast between a career built on playing characters and the expectation that audiences should now accept his personal opinions with the same authority. Gutfeld never had to spell that argument out directly. Instead, he let a raised eyebrow, a pause, and a carefully timed remark do the work. He trusted the audience to notice the contradiction on their own. And for many viewers, that subtle approach made the moment even more effective. Once that perspective was introduced, it became difficult to ignore, and from then on, every passionate speech seemed, to some critics, to carry the feel of performance that blurred the line between the actor and the role.
Bad end for a great actor. He went from Raging Bull, to this. You know, De Niro kind of represents Hollywood in the sense that they realize that they're losing influence with the public, and that's what's generating the emotional response. They've never felt less important.
And then the entire tone of the exchange seemed to shift. Once the audience settled into what they were watching, it no longer felt like a straightforward debate. It started to look more like a public unraveling. As the conversation went on, De Niro's angry gestures appeared less commanding, and his dramatic pauses, according to the commentary, began to feel more like lines from a familiar script than spontaneous reactions. Meanwhile, Gutfeld never chased a single knockout moment. Instead, he kept relying on small, carefully timed remarks, adding one sarcastic observation after another and letting them build naturally. That steady approach, rather than loud confrontation, became the driving force of the exchange. For many viewers, it challenged a long-standing image of an untouchable Hollywood legend, replacing it with a much more ordinary public figure open to criticism like anyone else. And as clips spread online, the discussion grew even bigger, with many people saying the moment resonated because it voiced opinions they felt had been building for a long time, making the conversation feel less like a one-night television segment and more like the release of debate that had been simmering beneath the surface.
Let's go to, I think he was in Canada, Toronto, opening a restaurant or doing something, and this is what he had to say.
And I just want to make a note of apology for the idiotic behavior of my president. It's a disgrace. And I apologize to Justin Trudeau, and the other people at the G7. It's disgusting.
You know, I actually feel bad for him because I think he's one of those people that has never emotionally recovered from 2016. This is a guy who's got serious Trump.
And this is where the whole exchange took another turn. The audience wasn't furious, and they weren't wildly celebrating either. They simply seemed entertained, quietly amused, and, for some viewers, a little uncomfortable watching a man who once commanded so much respect struggle to control the moment. According to the commentary, that kind of reaction can be more damaging than loud criticism. There were no dramatic boos or shocked gasps, just scattered laughter, and the sense that the larger-than-life image many people associated with De Niro had started to feel a little less untouchable. Meanwhile, Gutfeld never tried to overpower the conversation or compete for attention. He stayed measured, relied on carefully timed sarcasm, and let the contrast between the two styles speak for itself. In the end, the commentary argues that his biggest advantage wasn't volume or confrontation. It was the appearance of staying calm and grounded while the conversation unfolded around him. In a time when public debates often feel driven by emotion and spectacle, that restrained approach became the point many viewers remembered most.
And that he's smartest when they drop his audio. But, you know, it's kind of sad because you can see, like, people who are stuck in some kind of, derangement, they can't see it themselves. And they're not surrounded by people telling them that they have a problem. And they lack self-awareness because everybody either tells them they're wonderful or wants to sell them cocaine. So he has no clue what he's doing. And he's upset over the emotional nature. His anger is emotional about Trump. It's nothing.
But then the conversation moved beyond the two people on screen. It stopped feeling like it was about age or about one actor and one television commentator. Instead, it became part of a much bigger discussion. The point being made was that celebrity status alone no longer guarantees people will pay attention. The old idea that fame automatically gave someone influence has started to fade. Today, audiences decide what deserves their time, and if a message doesn't connect, they simply scroll past it without a second thought. According to commentary, De Niro still had the spotlight, But the challenge was that a spotlight only matters if people are still watching. On that particular night, many viewers seemed more interested in Gutfeld's calm delivery than in De Niro's star power. There was something striking about watching someone with nothing more than a quiet smirk and carefully timed sarcasm become the center of attention opposite an Academy Award-winning actor. For the people telling this story, that contrast wasn't just surprising. It symbolized how the rules of public influence and entertainment may have changed.
Tell his movies on Leno and Letterman, and it was like watching a WNBA game. You just were just bored to death. All of a sudden, Trump became president, and he started saying things. I want to punch the president in the face. You know, he's a crooked piece of... And then all of a sudden, De Niro became interesting during his media tours. And that's the only way now he can get publicity for his film, is by cursing.
And then came the final twist. When it was all over, Gutfeld didn't celebrate, boast, or act like he had won anything. He didn't need to. The moment had already made its impact on its own. The commentary argues that what people remembered wasn't a dramatic confrontation, but the contrast between two completely different styles. On one side was an Academy Award-winning actor with decades of legendary performances behind him. On the other was a television commentator relying on little more than dry humor, careful timing, and a quiet smile. Rather than trying to overpower the conversation, Gutfeld stayed composed and let his calm delivery carry the moment. According to the narrative, De Niro entered the exchange with the reputation of a Hollywood legend, but left as the subject of a broader conversation about fame, public influence, and the limits of celebrity authority. The lasting message wasn't that the loudest voice wins. It was that wit, restraint, and well-timed humor can sometimes leave the strongest impression. No shouting, no personal theatrics, just the confidence to sit back, make the point, and let the audience decide what it all meant.